Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Swarm Talk. We are here live on YouTube and on the personal Twitter account, and we cannot wait to bring you another fantastic show talking about all things Georgia Tech. We're excited you're joining us. We had a fantastic opportunity last week to talk about Georgia Tech and to talk about what they were doing and kind of the win against Kennesaw State and what would need to happen against, lack of better words, what would need to happen against Clemson, and we're going to talk about what happened against Clemson and what we have to look forward to with North Carolina. We're also going to have a special guest on here in about 15 minutes or so. Former Georgia Tech quarterback, good friend of mine, TaQuon Marshall, is going to join the show. He's going to talk a little bit about the quarterback position. Is there a quarterback battle? I know he knows Jordan Yates. He knows Jeff Sims. He knows both of these guys. He's going to go in more in depth, kind of inside the minds of these two guys. What is it like to have a quarterback battle? TaQuon was a guy that battled his way in attempting to make his starting position. He started his last 2 years at quarterback. And most importantly, my main man, Ralph, producing the show tonight, he hooked me up with some candy corn. So if you like candy corn, fall time is officially here in Columbus, Georgia, where this show's housed out of. Ralph, it was nowhere near the fall time type of weather at all. It was very, very hot today. Thursday morning. I don't know about you folks up in Atlanta, but it's going to be very, very nice. And we're excited to bring that as well. Listen, Section 103. I didn't wear the shirt last time, but I got you right here. Welcome to Atlanta. Let me get a little bit further down right here. Welcome to Atlanta. We got it right there. Beautiful shirt. Fantastic. You can find all of their merch as well. Ralph, go ahead and hit that for us. Fantastic. Section103.com. They have some fantastic stuff. You see right here, you get the Georgia Tech, you get the ATL logo, which is a fantastic brand to have. You get the Bobby Dodd Stadium is my happy place. Listen, ATL, Waffle House, you get all of those things, and it's exciting to see this brand coming about too. And listen, Ralph has got himself a nice ATL shirt coming. I've got that ATL hoodie right there that's on its way. We're excited to our man Steven of Section 103, more comfortable than the club seats. Well, listen, we're excited you decided to tune in with us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Georgia Tech, a little bit about the Clemson game, and then we're going to move forward because I think it's important when you look at games like this. And Ralph, I think you agree with me. You can look forward and you can see what we did right, what we did good, but what's got to improve. So let's start right here with just baseline. Let's start defensively. Defensively for Georgia Tech in this game, when you hold an offense, and I know that they lost a lot, I get that in Clemson. You held them to 14 points. I think you have to highlight what the defensive ability was. And let's take a look at that. You held Clemson under 300 yards of total offense at 284. That was fantastic. I mean, and I would say too, Ralph, and I got Ralph right here next to me. Anytime you hold an offense like that to Clemson, I don't care who they have. I know they lost Trevor Lawrence. I know they lost a host of other guys. When you lose that, I'm telling you, it is big time to be able to take control of a game like this defense did. So defensively, Georgia Tech played well. Offensively, I know that's where some of the struggles were, but you know, they held Clemson to 158 rushing yards, 126 through the air, just 5 yards per pass attempt. I think, and I want to speak to this, and, you know, we have people watching, and I want to get your take of it too. So please make sure you're commenting. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, follow, set up those notifications. We go live every single Tuesday at 7:30 to break down this game. But I think the feeling in watching the game was, at what point are we going to see Georgia Tech? And I see Trent joining. Trent Griner has joined the Twitter. We appreciate Trent. At what point do you see Georgia Tech, and you were waiting for Clemson just to air it out? We know the weapons. Justin Ross. I mean, this is a guy who burst onto the scene, especially in that national title game against Alabama. I think everyone was kind of waiting what exactly was going to happen, what we were going to see from that. So you dive into it and you look, Clemson, I felt like they could have aired the ball, but DJU, we'll call him, he never looked comfortable. I was talking with someone about this the other day for the Clemson-Georgia game. Obviously, Georgia's defensive front played well. Georgia Tech's defensive front played very, very well in this game. I want to show this clip right here from Jeff Collins. This is what he had to say right after. And I know you guys probably watched it, but this is what Jeff Collins said post-game right afterwards.
Standing because I'm about to go into a full body cramp. So our guys battled. They fought. So proud of that locker room. Obviously, the goal was to come here and win, but they battled from the opening snap till the very final whistle. Even with a however long lightning delay that we had, the leadership of this team, that locker room stayed together, came back out and battled and competed and fought, stuck to the game plan, and just really, really proud of them. But now we've got to turn around and we've got a really good opponent in 7 days in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But that team that played tonight, they can play with anybody. And just really proud of them. And just we got to find out how we can respond and put this behind us, learn from it against one of the top 5 teams in the country, and then come back out and put in a really good week's work this week.
I had to choose my rest of my candy corn right there. That's why we got Ralph telling me I'm muted. Listen, you heard Jeff Collins right there. He talked about this was a really good team. I wanted to touch on this. We talked about this on our Hive GT podcast covering 24/7 sports. You can find that down there in the link below if you're on YouTube. What I think is big is you hear coaches a lot of time, they have this coach speak, and they say things like, well, we played well. And Ralph, you can back me up. We played well. We showed a lot of fight. And a lot of times when a team loses, and like Georgia Tech lost in week 1 to Northern Illinois, that can get old. It can be one of those things that you don't like. But I think in this game, it's a perfect example. I said last week, I think this is a litmus test type of game. Where is Georgia Tech as a program? And listen, the offense, I think what we can say, the offense is not there yet. But you just faced a top 3 defense in the country. Clemson's defensive line is one of the best, if not the best. I know Tech fans will say not the best because they're not fans of the boys over in Athens. But this is Brian Bresee. I mean, he's an animal, an absolute animal. We got Patience right there. Patience, appreciate you. We'll get yours. Patience, let's go. Good to see you again. Patience, share this. Get this going. We want to see some people interacting like they did last week. We appreciate you tuning in. And make sure, Patience, if you got questions or anything you want to see, we're going to talk about that as well throughout this show. Back to Trent. Is Clemson not back? Listen, I think, Trent, the best way to describe it is the fact that Clemson lost a lot, and we may have underestimated what Clemson lost. We may have sat there and said, they lost a good bit, but, yeah, it's Clemson. They'll rebuild. And much like a lot of people said with Alabama. And Alabama struggled on the road against Florida. And so I think it's interesting to say that the ACC is probably for the first time in 5-6 years. Would you say 5, 6, 7 years? Maybe a little more open than we thought previously. I mean, Clemson's a team that could struggle down the stretch. So, Trent, we appreciate your comment as well. So it's interesting to see this was a win. I think, Jeff Collins has had 7 wins in his program. 3 first year, 3 the second year, 1 so far this season. And I would argue this is the best game Tech's played under Jeff Collins because they played so well, even though they lost, even though they've won some games, they competed. And so let's take a look from a fan's perspective. We're going to get TaQuon Marshall in here. So from a fan's perspective, we're going to take this, and that's where I want you guys to interact with us as well. From a fan's perspective, and they did have the win against FSU last year, which was obviously a big one on the road, but I think what FSU as a program may not match up to that. But from a fan's perspective, there's no such thing I know as a moral victory, but I think this one definitely is. This is one where before last week, I was struggling to find 1 or 2 more wins in the schedule. Now, if you put together a defensive effort like that and the offense can fix those things, and you have to believe they will, this is only week 3. If they do that, then turning the corner, what you're able to do is you're able to sit there and say, okay, we did a great job of this. Now the offense is kind of turning the corner, and games like a Virginia Tech, you get them at home. Who knows? A Duke, you can win that game very easily. Boston College, Pitt. Those are Boston College, Pitt, and Duke are 3 games right there where I think it's easy to say you can see 4 or 5 wins with this team. And I'll say this, team finishes 5-7 with the schedule they have. to me, that's a building block. That's a step taken. You're taking that step as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how that lays out. But from a fan's perspective, you can look at the game and you can look at it two ways. Yes, you can be the fan that walks out of the stadium and say, you know what, that sucked, but it didn't suck as much as losing 73-7 last year. And that's you're right on the money if you're saying that as a fan. But what you also have to say is, man, we were favored. What was it? 37.5-point underdog, something along the line, 37.5 points. And what did we do? We went out there and, man, we almost beat the number 6 team in the country. We almost took down the juggernaut of the ACC, and we were so close. And so it's easy to see as a fan, well, I did this, but we didn't. We just came up just a bit short. And I think that's what you have to look and see is it's frustrating. I get that. I understand that it's, interesting to see in patience right there, 27.5-point underdogs. Patience, it's one of the things as a fan that you have to sit there and say, man, it did suck that we lost this game, but there's a lot of growth from it. We're going to talk about some of that growth when we talk to TaQuon Marshall here very shortly. I think we saw growth from Jordan Yates. I think Jordan Yates is a quarterback. I mean, I don't know what the future holds with Jeff Sims, the injury-wise, but I think it's safe to say, and I'll say this, and TaQuon can correct me because obviously he's the more experienced on the football field, but I think you could say there might be a quarterback problem, which is a good problem to have. You have two guys that are capable. Jeff Sims' potential's off the charts, but the poise and the command of the offense, the understanding of the offense that Jordan Yates has right now, to me is just phenomenal. I mean, just watching him, how he carries himself on the field. And I said this to someone the other day, he doesn't get too high or too low. And I think that's what big for me. I mean, he's a guy, he's emotional. He loves the game of football. I mean, this is a guy who was and correct me if I'm wrong, Patience is the super fan. I know she knows this. He was a 7A, state champion that, I think at Milton, that's where he was. Or Jordan Yates, we'll get Ralph to look that up, where Jordan Yates in high school. I mean, this is a guy who was one of the top players in the state of Georgia. We got Ken Fowler here with his comment right here. Ken asked this, do you tip your hat? And Ken, we appreciate you tuning in once again. Ken is we'll say longtime listener, second time, what we say, longtime listener, second time caller, a commenter. And it was Milton, by the way. Do you tip your hat to Clemson's defense or concede that while Yates has been solid, Sims is the guy that will take the offense to the next level? And Ken, I'm going to pose this question. I'm going to answer from my point of view, and then I'm also going to answer it from TaQuon. We're going to let TaQuon answer from his point of view. He's going to be on with us here shortly. When you see this, and there we go right there, Jordan Yates did win a state championship with Milton High School. That was right. 7A state champion. That's the highest classification in the state of Georgia. I mean, you got to be very talented to do that. So back to your question, Ken, we'll put it back up there. With what is happening in the quarterback room, you have two talented guys. And listen, you have talented guys behind them. But with these two guys, in my opinion, Jeff Sims, to me, is still the future. But a lot of times you have to ask yourself, what is going to help us right now? And you're walking into a game in North Carolina when, Ralph, they put up 52 points against Virginia this past weekend. I mean, they put up 50-plus. North Carolina went crazy. So you got to know that offensively you can't have the same performance. Now, I don't think North Carolina's defense is just as good as Clemson's, Ken. But to me, you got to ride the hot hand. So Clemson's defense, very, very solid. But if Jordan Yates seemingly has a command, and that's some of the things, they only give us 30 minutes of practice time. And a lot of time that is really the special teams, which we'll talk about the onside kick. That was beautiful. Ralph, I don't know if you saw that. The onside kick that Georgia Tech had, I mean, that you could not have executed that any better. But we're going to talk about with TaQuon when he comes on about what he thinks about this. But to me, with Jordan Yates, he has the hot hand. He seemingly has a great command on the offense. In practice, we don't get to see the full, 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 when they run that. So it's kind of hard to take. You're trying to take away the message from Jeff Collins, who's, not the biggest guy to go in depth on some stuff. But I like your question there, Ken, because it does make it interesting to see exactly, what Clemson's defense does. And Ralph here with a little tidbit, Clemson has allowed 21 points this season total. Georgia didn't score a touchdown against them. So you can hang your hat on that. I'll say they against the defense. They had the defensive touchdown, obviously. But, Ken, that's a great question, and I'm going to pose that and bring that back up when TaQuon comes on. It's very interesting to see. We got TaQuon right here. TaQuon, how you doing, man?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Well, listen, man, I had some people who were excited to talk to you, and I think the biggest thing, man, I want to talk about is you came on the Twitter Spaces the other day, and we talked about You said, and I like how you said you can't give Jeff Sims the pass because he hadn't played in front of a full crowd. Well, you have both these quarterbacks. Do you feel like there is a quarterback battle officially at Georgia Tech right now? And is that a good problem to have with two talented guys?
I wouldn't say it's a battle just because I feel like everybody knows how football, well, not everybody knows how it works internally, but honestly, it sucks to say. Like, I think both guys are good. I think Jeff has a very high ceiling. I mean, he's a 6'4" guy. He has all the tools and tangibles to be a very good quarterback. Jordan's a shorter guy, but he still has all the tools and tangibles to be a good quarterback. And as we've seen, he's been able to lead the offense. Jeff has been able to do the same thing. I think, each of them have something different about their game that they can bring to the team that helps the team out in a certain way. But in football, it's always a next man up game. Literally, it's always a next man up game. So I think what's happening right now is that Jordan has the hot hand. So they're kind of riding with Jordan to see how things are going, see how they're going to flow. I don't think Jeff's completely out of the picture. I think they'll get to a point to where they may even play both. But I just know right now, I mean, we saw the way Jordan came in and led the team versus Northern Illinois. We saw the way Jordan played when Jeff was out against Kennesaw State. Now we just saw the way Jordan played against Clemson, even after like an hour and a half rain delay, or a lightning delay. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a quarterback battle because I think both of the guys right now are able to, do what they need to do in order to help the team. I just think it's a next man up scenario right now.
Obviously, Jeff Sims had the injury that he sustained against Northern Illinois. TaQuon, I've been impressed. I don't know how much you've gone back. I know somebody asked you about the cloud coverage earlier on Twitter, but I don't know how much you've gone back and really looked. But I've been impressed with Jordan Yates' poise. This is a guy that I mean, obviously he competed at the highest level in the state of Georgia high school, won himself a state championship with Milton. I mean, to me, in that Clemson game, which you played there, that's an environment, and you played against Clemson before, that's an environment that it can get hostile. And this was kind of their first real home game, we'll say. They played South Carolina State before. They played Georgia in a neutral site. Were you impressed with his poise and how he just had to command the offense? Because to me, he never really got too high, too low. Like you said, obviously there's some things you can work on, though.
Yeah, I think that's who Jordan is as a person, honestly, man. I've been around Jordan for a long time. I helped recruit him when I was still there. I've trained with him in the off season when I was preparing for the draft and things like that. So I've been around Jordan a lot, and I think he's always cool, calm, and collective. I mean, he doesn't really ever get too high or too low. He's a cool guy to be around. So I feel like, he just was able to showcase that during the game. I mean, at the same time, I've also been around Jeff. Now, I haven't been able to really train with Jeff, but I've been around him. And I really thought the same thing about Jeff his freshman year when, we were in some situations where like he may turn the ball over or something like that. But if they put the camera on him and he's literally even keel, like he's not too high, he's not too low. So I really like that about both of the guys, honestly.
You played the position and you had to battle your way to that starting position. What's the mindset right now that you believe? And I don't know if you've talked to the guys. We got a question for you that we'll bring here in a second, but I want to finish this one. What's the mindset right now of just this offense in general? To me and to a lot of the fans, Clemson is a top 3 defense in the country. I mean, they've allowed 21 points this season. The big rival for Tech, Georgia, didn't score an offensive touchdown against them. So I think part of it you can say their defense is that good, but the schedule doesn't get any easier for Georgia Tech at some point, and you feel like it's only week 3, still a long season. You feel like this offense is going to figure it out, and did you see some positive things against Clemson they were trying to do?
I feel like, honestly, like I think Jordan is at his utmost best when he can scramble and make a play. And I mean, that's if we're looking at the game today, that's what the game has come to. Like, should you be able to sit in the pocket and, deliver balls? Of course. But the guys that are able to extend the plays, keep their eyes downfield, and throw a 30-yard bomb, and now you have your 30-plus instead of sitting in the pocket throwing a 10-yard route or maybe a 15 to 20-yard route. I'm throwing a 30-yard route on the run, getting outside the pocket, and now that guy's getting 20 yards worth of yak. That's a 50-yard play. Like, that's what guys are really looking for, and I think, that's what he's really good at, and I think the offense should progress, but I don't think the offense is progressing as fast as we would like. Like, honestly, I wasn't exactly that happy with the play calling in the red zone against Clemson. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there watching the game that wasn't, exactly happy with the play calling in the red zone, because I felt like we put ourselves in a position to upset Clemson at Clemson, and we only gave up 14 points after an hour lightning delay. Like, that's huge. Like, to sit around for an hour with 32 seconds left in the second half and then come out, finish those 32 seconds, go back in the locker room, and then come back out and try and put on that performance and only give up 7 points. Like, that's pretty huge. So I think when you're able to get the turnovers that we got, and you're not able to put the ball in the end zone or, come out of it with something else, then you kind of get frustrated. So I'm hoping that going into this week, we're playing the Mercedes-Benz. That's another big game. I feel like the ACC is up in the air. The Coastal's up in the air. Like, nobody's really running it. Besides, I will say Pitt does look very good. But honestly, I think it's really up in the air. And, like, I think Georgia Tech, this is the year that they really do have a chance to be a contender if we can keep progressing and make progressions in the right area.
Well, the good thing, I mean, if you want to take a good thing from the loss from Northern Illinois, it's not a conference loss. So you can just chalk that one up. It doesn't affect you in that conference. Want to ask you this follow-up real quick before we get to Patience's question. You go back to, obviously, the final part of the game, and this is a question I got on Twitter, and I'm sure that you yourself, if you were watching the game, probably looked at some of your people around you and say, what in the world was this, the play calling? Listen, when you got a guy like Jordan Mason in the backfield, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dante Smith, Jamias Griffin, I mean, even Bruce Jordan-Swilling, you got some guys back there, just some dudes. When you have this, at some point, do you feel like that they should have just handed the rock and said, let's try to punch it in? Or what? Walk me through, because you've been in a situation like that. You've been in situations like that. What is the thought process in those type of situations?
And I'll start off by saying, let me just say, it's not easy to score from the 3-yard end. So not by any means am I saying, oh, it's so easy to score when you're inside the 5. When everything is very condensed, your play calling also gets somewhat condensed, like, especially when you're in the gun. So I'll start off by saying that. Now, I do think we could have put the ball in specific players' hands when you're down there, because, I mean, who doesn't want to see the ball in Yates' hands? Who doesn't want to see the ball in Malachi Carter's hands? Who doesn't want to see the ball in JP's hands or Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, it's guys that, we have that, I'm pretty sure everybody was like, okay, give the ball to, Gibbs, or give the ball to JP. But, I mean, maybe the coaches saw something that we can't see on TV. Maybe that is the case. I mean, I coach on Friday nights. I help call plays on Friday night. I see things that sometimes my head coach doesn't see, and he sees things sometimes I don't see. So it can be that case where maybe the sequence of plays they ran is because they saw something up top in the booth, or they saw something from the sideline that they thought they may be able to get. So that could be the case.
Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. I mean, if it would have worked, then no one would be questioning it. And I think one thing too is going to be interesting. You kind of got to give credit to James Skalski, the linebacker. I mean, it was a great play by him on Devaney.
Honestly, and I went back and watched it because I was really curious as to why we ran that play on 4th down. And the only person who could have made the play made the play. Literally, everybody else was blocked. I mean, the only other thing we could have done is stretch the option more and pitch it to Gibbs and hope he could beat him to the pylon. But other than that, I mean, the middle linebacker is the only one who can make the play, and he made the play. So, I mean, the coaches saw something, and I guess they thought it may have worked. Unfortunately, it didn't, so we can what if all we want. But, that's how it works in football. Either it falls your way or it doesn't.
Yeah, and like I said, if it would have gone the other way, then nobody would be questioning it. It would have been the greatest play call ever. We're going to go to Patient's question right here for you, TaQuon, and it kind of talks about what you're saying. How do you learn to move on from an encouraging loss, per se, as a team, and what steps do you take in order to prepare for North Carolina and their offense, which is very explosive and probably you're a little bit more talented than what you saw in Death Valley last Saturday?
I mean, I think you take every loss the same way. I guess you could say it's encouraging. I mean, we stuck in there with a team that dropped 70 on us last year. So, if they had a drop 40, anything less than 70 would have been an improvement, honestly. I mean, if I'm just keeping it like cut and dry with you, anything below 70 would have been, an improvement. But you got to take this loss like you take the Northern Illinois loss. Like, you got to watch the tape. You can't dwell on it, because if you dwell on the loss and say, well, we could have done this or we could have done that, like, man, I wish I would have made this play. We're going to get to North Carolina this weekend, and it's going to be it'll be an embarrassment, because you're still focused on what happened the week before. Like, once you watch the tape and once you figure out what your corrections are, you have to chop it up and, charge it to the game and say, hey, like, we could have won the game, but we didn't. So this is what we need to work on. Let's work on that towards UNC, and let's put together our best game plan. Let's go in laser focused and try to get the job done with UNC.
Obviously, it's going to be quite the test. They're playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's going to be a good atmosphere. TaQuon, will you be at the game on Saturday?
I was going to go, but I am not going to go this weekend. Me and my mom actually just had a birthday, so we're going to be doing some birthday celebration stuff this weekend, and it's a late night game, so I think we plan on doing some stuff Saturday night. So I will not be in attendance at this game Saturday.
Well, you're getting old then, man. You can't stay up for that game.
I'm getting up there, man.
Well, listen, man. Tell everybody where you're coaching and everything. I know it's kind of went a little bit under the radar for a lot of Tech fans. They don't quite know what you're doing now. Obviously, you have your 7-on-7 team that was very successful in kind of their first run. But what are you doing currently right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm coaching at Alfreda High as a receiver coach in the OC. And again, like you said, I'm still doing my 7-on-7 stuff. That hadn't come back around yet, but it's getting close to that time. Around about December, January, we'll get everything kicked back up, and I'll be working on getting some more guys some college looks and getting some guys some offers. So
awesome. Well, listen, man, we appreciate it. We're gonna have to get you on here more often. For those who don't know, TaQuon, he had the sports broadcasting thing. So hey, we're gonna let him come on and talk as much as he wants about the Yellow Jackets. Listen, man, we appreciate it. You have a fantastic rest of your night, and good luck to you the rest of your high school season.
I appreciate it, my guy.
Yes, sir. That was TaQuon Marshall. He joining us, fantastic guy, good friend of mine. And for those that don't know, TaQuon and I played on the same Little League Pee Wee football team.
He played.
Well, I played, Ralph. I played. And so I'm going to talk about that real quick, because I played. Our running back was Tay Crowder. We had Tyler McGar, who was our left tackle. He played at Cincinnati. TaQuon was our quarterback. Isaias Chapman was our running back. He played at Ohio Dominican. We had quite the combination. I played tight end, baby. I was tight end right here. Fantastic. But listen, hey, let's get some comments in here. We got our guy right here. KJ76 ATL right there. ATL. We appreciate you, the GOAT right there, for commenting as well. And also Zach McKinnell. Get the likes up. Yeah, listen, like it, subscribe, do all these things. We got some exciting stuff that we're talking about each and every week. And, too, I think right there, the crowded booth, Ralph right there. Comment, let us know what you think about Tech's performance against Clemson. And I'm going to highlight for you right here a couple of players that I really, really liked against Clemson. If you're a betting man or woman and you enjoy a good performance, and I know they don't do individual bets, but Charlie Thomas has been lights out for Georgia Tech. I said it in our preseason over at 24/7 Sports. To me, he was going to be a player to watch. I like Ace Ely. I like Quez Jackson. But Charlie Thomas, the amount of times, guys, his sideline-to-sideline speed was fantastic. I think he's a big piece. Another one, Jordan Dominant, we know about him, but Zeke Biggers, the freshman defensive lineman. Ralph, give me a size on Zeke Biggers, the defensive lineman. He came in this past season. What a fantastic addition for this. I mean, this guy's an absolute monster. 6'6", 363. Now, listen, hey, it's still a little bit of baby fat. They're going to get that off of him. It's fantastic. KJ right here. Charlie Thomas is on fire. So glad we moved that linebacker. And listen, KJ, this is the beautiful thing about Charlie Thomas, what he does so well. He can play, and I said this last week, in that nickel role. He can play as a linebacker. He's got the strength to play against the run, but he's got the speed, the wherewithal, the awareness to play against the pass. We saw that against Kennesaw State last week. Final to tie the bow right here on this Clemson game. Listen, you clean up the penalties. You won the time of possession by 20 seconds. But, guys, what TaQuon said was so huge is the ability, and Ralph, I think this is something that's just huge in football, to be able to go through an hour and a half lightning delay and come out and keep the same performance, that was impressive.
It's almost impossible.
It's literally so hard.
Because Clemson just came out and it lights out the whole second half, but then they weren't even able to do anything.
Yeah, I mean it's Clemson, and that's exactly what Ralph said. It's one of those things where Clemson could have came up and made the adjustments, and they probably did, but Georgia Tech made adjustments as well. And guys, that's such a big thing for Andrew Thacker and the staff, to be able to make those halftime adjustments. Sometimes as a fan, you can say, I want to bang my head against the wall because we're not making those adjustments. We're messing this up, and that's what's really tough. TaQuon was great on that. We're going to have to post a couple clips from that because he was just talking about Jordan Yates, all those different things. So if you're watching live right now but you want to go back and watch it, stay on the YouTube and go back. We'll have that as well. Let's talk a little bit about, yes, patience. You hit it right on the money. I was going to talk about the secondary. Tariq Carpenter. This is a guy who got banged up earlier this year already, and Tariq Carpenter, listen, he's a physical presence. He played well, and I just felt like this defensive unit played well. They had a chip on their shoulder. I mean, and I talked about this last week. You have to take it a little bit personal. Did I not say that, Ralph? As a defense, you take it personal. You lost 73-7 last year. And I know it's a different group of guys. I know it's a different personnel, but you know what they're going to run. And Will Shipley is going to be one of the top running backs taken when he is available. But he is that talented already as a freshman. But when you're able to do that defensively, and Tariq Carpenter, Wanye Thomas, Charlie Thomas, guys in the middle, Jaimin Brooks, I mean, this was a group that just played very, very well. I mean, just cohesive as a unit that we haven't seen in, I would say, 2 years. I mean, the communication was there. And I know, and listen, and I want Tech fans to understand this. This is what's going to happen. The cop-out is, well, Jordan Clemson's not that good. They're not that good. No, they are good. They're still a good team. And I would live in the camp, guys, of until you're the best, until you improve otherwise. And right now, Clemson's the reigning ACC champ. And until somebody comes in there and dethrones them, they're the best team in the ACC. Now, North Carolina could very well be that. Tariq won't be available for the first half, will he? And this is Mr. Hickman right there. Ralph, get me on that. Was Tariq Carpenter ejected? I can't remember that. I'll say this, to be honest with you guys. I was on campus at Georgia Tech broadcasting the volleyball game where clean old-fashioned hate happened. So I had to watch the recap of the game and then get close with that. So obviously, shout out Georgia Tech volleyball, 9-1. Fantastic start to their season. I know Hickman's a big fan of them, and they beat the Dogs. Who doesn't love that? It's going to be very, very interesting. Ken Fowler, guys like Jaron Willis. Tariq was ejected in the second half. KJ, that's why we love to have you there. He was ejected. So, yes, Hickman, he will not be available in that first half. He'll have to come in, which is a big loss. We'll talk about that, over on 24/7 Sports, who could possibly fill in with that. But Ken, right here, guys like Jaron Willis will have to be excited to see what Charlie Thomas is doing in the position he may play. Ken, this is huge for recruiting, and this is why this game was big. You can take a lot from it because Jaron Willis got to see what Thomas did, and you're exactly right. I can do that. And Willis is one of the top prospects in the state of Georgia. He's going to be very, very, very good. Patience right there with that comment. He was ejected and then will miss the first half of the UNC game. That's a big blow. But Patience, you were right earlier in saying that this is a guy in Tariq Carpenter who might have the ability to be a great player. Ralph's looking at me a little weird here. So the Coon curse is broken by GT Volleyball. That's a little inside joke. For those that don't know, I broadcasted a lot of Georgia Tech softball this past year. Both baseball games, one of them they got destroyed by USC Upstate. I think they allowed like 27 combined runs in the two baseball games I did, and then softball won 2 games all year that I did. So, yes, the Coon curse was broken. Hickman, we appreciate that. Hey, Hickman, if I want a house, can you get me one on Lake Lanier? That's all I ask. Hickman, very big realtor, Georgia Tech grad, big guy as well. And my man Ralph. Ralph, turn the camera on real quick. This is our producer over here. This is our producer. Look what he's got on, Ralph. What you got? Ralph's got on the quarter pullover there. Georgia Tech Adidas pullover. He's producing the show. Ralph, we appreciate you as well with the show. Ralph's pulling all the strings behind the scenes. We're happy for him as well. So go give Ralph a follow as well. Hickman right there. Yes, you got cash. Well, Hickman, I just bought a car today, so I don't have a ton of funds on me right there. KJ, nice. We'll give you one more look at Ralph right there. Give him one. Ralph, show KJ what you're working with. Yeah, flex on a little bit. There you go. Short sleeve, comfortable. Hey, you got it for a good price as well. Let's talk about this real quick, too. Going into this North Carolina game, Sam Howell is a great player, great football player. He will probably be one of the top quarterbacks taken this year in the draft if he decides to leave. Not because of, I would say, because he is the clear-cut. I don't think there's a clear-cut guy like there has been in years past necessarily, but because the quarterback class is probably not as strong. So patience right there. What up, Ralph? Seems like he's a cool guy. Ralph's a cool guy. Hey, if you want to hear about what Ralph has to say about sports, check us out Crowded Booth Live on Mondays and Wednesdays. Ton of fun. But listen, North Carolina's run game is not what it was last year. They lost their top 2 rushers. They do have Ty Chandler, who's going to be interesting to watch. Ralph, let's get some stats on that Georgia Tech North Carolina game, or the North Carolina Virginia game from obviously this past Saturday. It's going to be interesting to see how Georgia Tech defensively steps up right here for me. Because a lot of the times, and I feel like we've been saying recently, well, how do you deal with the failure? How do you deal with the failure of this? But like Patience alluded to, all's not lost in that Clemson loss. How do you deal with the success you had defensively? Because now you can say, okay, I think it's too early to say now the defense is where it's at, and now we can catch the offense up. You're facing a whole new challenge this upcoming week in North Carolina, and a dynamic. I mean, they got a young man named Josh Downs who's down from Valdosta, Georgia. I got to watch him play a couple times when I was down there. Absolute maniac, and I'm going to use that term, Ralph. A maniac, great route runner. He's going to be playing in the NFL one day. Sam Howell, obviously Ty Chandler's a talented back, can do it out of the backfield. He can do a lot of different things. But we got this right here. Ralph's going to hit some of the stats and put it in the chat for us. We're going to pull it up. North Carolina has a dynamic offense that, listen, they beat Georgia State 2 weeks ago, and Georgia State didn't have their best game. Obviously, Georgia State not where they want to be right now as a program, defensively especially. But it's very interesting. We take a look from last week. Sam Howell, 14 of 21, 5 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Ty Chandler, 20 carries, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. Josh Downs, I said the man was a maniac, guys. 8 receptions, 203 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you say, Bryce, what can we do? What can we do defensively? Well, listen, that's when, Hickman, we were talking about that cloud coverage, the sky coverage, as a lot of people allude to it. It's very interesting. North Carolina had 699 yards of total offense. The problem is, if you go back into the cloud, defense, the sky defense, where essentially, and we'll explain this, and maybe I need to be able to do this. Patience, this is a great question. What do we need to contain Josh Downs? To me, let's talk about this. And this is where guys, I want the show to evolve. I want to be able to bring in, let's look at some of the film from what Georgia Tech did. So sky coverage, you say, what is that? So cloud coverage. That's where you're going to have your 2 safeties. They're going to drop back. A cornerback's going to drop back. You're going to have essentially 3 deep. And then the other cornerback is guarding the flats. Not up in Atlanta, the flats, though. So, to me, you have to limit the big play. You have to be able to say, listen, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to nickel and dime it down the field, and we're going to make you put up a 10, 11, 12 play drive to score. Now, listen, North Carolina can do that. They're talented. But to be able to do that for the course of 60 minutes, a full game, that's tough. That's tough treading for any offense. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. Josh Downs obviously has great home run type ability. What do I mean when I say home run? I mean that he can be a guy that, he can streak down the middle of the field, deep post, and he can burn everybody. Wanye Thomas, Tariq Carpenter when he comes back, his replacement. Those 2 guys are going to have to not allow the plays to get past them. It's very interesting to see what these teams are going to have to do in the defense, the adjustments. Because, listen, you can make all the adjustments in game, like the Patience we were talking about. But when it comes time and they throw something different out there, that's the in-game adjustments that make the coaching staff the big bucks. We're going to see how Andrew Thacker and the rest of this defense takes care of that. Defensive line is going to play big too. We talk about Patience. The biggest thing defensively is don't allow the big play. Well, how can that help? Your defensive line has to take a step up. Defensive line, for me, took a step up in that game against Clemson. We're going to need to see more of that. We're going to need to see the defense. I want to see Zeke Biggers. Ralph, you said what, 6'6", 323, 325, 336? I mean, that is a massive 18, 19-year-old kid. If he can get in there, Jamin Brooks, this is a game where former 5-star Antonius Clayton can live up to the billing. This is a game where we can see Ace Ely, Quez Jackson. I mean, we need to see some of these guys, Charlie Thomas, see some of these guys be able to take the initiative, take it upon themselves. And guys, we got to get a pass rush. Our front seven, our back guys here in the back, they've been playing great. Defensive backfield, but we got to help them out at some point because eventually the talent will take over. And Sam Howell is way too good to be quieted for that long. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, patience. That's kind of what we're feeling right there. So I think it's interesting to see. This is a game, Ralph. What's the line on that game? North Carolina, Georgia Tech. I'm not quite sure. We'll have that later on this week. Playing in the Benz. Listen, first off, if you're watching, coming in, who are you going to be there? Patience, you going to be there? KJ, you going to be there? Hickman, you going? I mean, this is a game where I think Tech needs the fans. You need the fans to come and sell out this the lotting seat right there. It's 12. It's a 12. Wow. So 12-point dog is Tech to North Carolina. That's with the, 3 points? That's including the 3 points that Tech would get for this because it's a neutral site technically. So we'll be right there. This is right here what like from Hickman. We won't confuse how much DGU. We're going to have to get pressure from some odd spots, which means a guy like CT may have to take a wide receiver to let Reek or Ye blitz. I think we're a 10 to 12-point dog. It's going to be interesting right there. Ken, we will have to take some chances behind. We take some chances playing man behind some dialed-up blitzes. Also think we'll have scored 30 points to have a shot. That's line right there too. I'll be there with my 7 from Hickman right there. He's good right there. Then we got Patience. Is it that UNC is really good because UAV might have been down when you take a look at the stats from the game? What are your thoughts on that? We're going to talk about that real quick. I want to show you Section 103. Let's roll that again, talk about Section 103. Here's a look at some of the stuff that they have. So we're back, Section 103. That was just some of the great gear they have. We appreciate Steven and his crew right there over at section103.com. Fantastic stuff. And also, by the way, I had to get a drink of water right here because I was about to die there for a second. Patience. So let's look at this right here. Is it that UNC is really good, or was it more because UVA might have been down when you take a look at the stats from that game? What are your thoughts on that? The good news, and Ralph put it over here for me, UVA had 577 yards of total offense. So the good news is that maybe North Carolina's defense, this is just a team where they have to outscore you. Now, with their offense, Patience, I believe North Carolina can just outscore some of the teams on their schedule and win the game. That's going to be interesting to see. But with North Carolina, I mean, guys, it's a talented group. I think that they are – I don't think that they're an elite team by any means. I think that their offense, I think in a perfect match, let's take the state of Clemson, the state of North Carolina. Clemson has an elite defense right now. Ralph, we good with that? They have an elite defense. They're struggling offensively. North Carolina, they have a elite, a good to elite offense, we'll say, good to elite offense, but they're struggling defensively, especially against good competition. I think we're going to need to see Georgia Tech stretch it out. I think we're going to see a guy and another guy, Kyrick McGowan. Holy cow, this kid is unreal. Transfer from Northwestern, fantastic athlete. As TaQuon talked about earlier, the yak, the yards after catch that man gets is fantastic. KJ there, one way. I'm guessing that means the KJ that you're going and you have a one ticket. Is that what he means? Or he's talking about Wanye? Not sure. Wanye? We'll talk about that.
I don't think he means Wanye.
Wanye, we'll see. But listen, North Carolina is a talented team. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very hard to overcome some of the obstacles that they just propose from a talent standpoint. I mean, this is a game that I just think on paper, and this is the reason you don't play the game on paper, okay? North Carolina has got to start fast. Georgia Tech, on the other hand, man, if you get a quick stop turnover, you got to win the turnover battle. That's what's going to stand out to me. If you can win the turnover battle, you're going to stand a good chance. We saw week 1, Ralph, against Virginia Tech, Sam Howell threw 3 picks. And when you rattle him, that's going to be something interesting. Going back to Hickman's comment up there about we won't confuse Howell as much as DJU, you probably won't. I mean, Howell's a little more mobile, or chooses to be. I mean, I feel like DJ could have run the ball, and he did towards the end of the game. But this is something where I think that it had to be true right there. And we're going back to KJ right there. So Wanya had joined the viewing here a little while ago. Not sure if he's still in here. Wanya, if you are, man, we're going to get you on the show at some time. Wanya, obviously starting safety for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Patience, say we win the coin toss this weekend. Do we take the ball, go down and score, or do we defer and play defense right away?
I'll please with the ball first. You have to.
I think from a confidence standpoint, take the ball. Let's go. Let's go. This is a big-time game. And KJ right there, he says defer. You know, it speaks volumes. It's kind of like going for 4th down on around midfield. If you go for it, that shows that you have confidence in your defense. Because you say, even if we don't get this, we have a chance to stop them. I'm not worried about our defense having to go the length of the field. But in this situation, man, if you take it, you're going to show the confidence. If not, you have a chance to put that defense out there first and set the tone defensively. And I think that's what Hickman and KJ may be referring to right there. Listen, this is a talented group. The defense has taken a step up. They've played well. They're going to have to continue. How do they deal with the success from Clemson, and how do they move on with this opportunity right there? Let's go right here back to Hickman. Get the last score of the second quarter and then get the ball back again. Hickman, I always say this, the most pivotal part of a football game is the last 5 minutes of the first half and the first 5 minutes of the second half. And Ralph's mimicking me because I always say that. Last 5 minutes of the first half, first 5 minutes of the second half, because that's those 10-minute frames. The 10-minute time frame is where you can decide the game. And you can say right there. So very interesting to see kind of what's going to happen with this game. North Carolina comes into Atlanta. I hope all of you are going to be there. It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere. Mercedes-Benz Stadium. My guy Ron McKenzie, it's going to be interesting. Bryce uses his hands to talk if you hadn't realized yet. Yes, I do. I do talk a lot with my hands. But listen, guys, we're excited. And listen, we're excited to continue doing this show. We had a group on Twitter right now that is, I think Hickman named him quite a fun and interesting name this past week, today. I'll have to show Ralph. But listen, man, we want to provide this. I was talking with a good friend of mine as we wrap up tonight's show. And Patience over here, Ralph being real over here. Thanks, Patience. Appreciate that. And I got to shout Patience out. She helped me get a couple tickets for some Georgia Tech baseball games. Family was able to come. Great environment. And also, fall ball started. Georgia Tech baseball, the most beautiful landscape beyond the fence. Unreal. Hope I get to call some more games there. And it'll be fantastic. But let me take a swig of water real quick. What's going to be interesting, and Ralph, no, you did not get an invite to those baseball games at all. Sorry. What's going to be interesting, because they're on weeknights and you work. There's not really we talk about coverage of Georgia Tech, and I feel like sometimes when I came on with 24/7 Sports, the coverage of Georgia Tech, and especially in Atlanta, it's there, but it's not what it should be for a major university. And this is not a Group of 5 school. This is a Power 5 school that has all the resources to be competitive at the Power 5 level. So the coverage should reflect that. And a lot of times it gets pulled over to Athens or Tuscaloosa or Auburn or Knoxville and stuff like that. And so I think this is why I kind of wanted to start this. I had someone say to me the other day, well, why don't you take it away from Twitter Spaces? Because this is an opportunity for me covering, also for you guys that are diehard fans to be able to talk about it and for us to come together and just have fun with that. So we really appreciate the early viewing period that you guys had, the time frame of viewing that you all have had. It's been a ton of fun just to talk about this show with other people, be excited. Right now we're on a Tuesday. And Cage right there. Agree on the coverage. We got to win consistently. You're right. But right now we're at this Tuesday 7:30 time slot, and I'm thinking about extending it maybe on Thursdays nights too, but kind of taking a deeper look into what's going on, maybe having some guests on. I mean, talked with former Georgia Tech guard Jose Alvarado about maybe coming on and diving in when basketball season starts and really just creating a Georgia Tech-centered sports talk show. That's why I want to do this. Obviously, this is under the umbrella. I'm kind of the hybrid of my own personal with the crowded booth we talk about on Monday, Wednesdays. We have general sports talk. But Section 103 approached us about a sponsorship, and we are just excited to do that and obviously bring the Georgia Tech brand to the more of the forefront, especially here in the state of Georgia. But I think there needs to be more coverage. I think that the coverage lacks sometimes. And so for us to have it, we obviously have it over at 24/7 Sports, The Hive, GT, GoJackets.com. Check us out there. We're on articles all the time. And it can be a great opportunity for Georgia Tech fans to bond. And we want to take this thing. I mean, we want to see how high we can make this. I mean, it's great. And patience right there. Appreciate you doing this. I really enjoyed it. It's been fun. And listen, I don't care if there's 7, 8 viewers, 15, 20. We're going to start and we're going to continue to do this, continue to mold this, and continue to create a fan base and something for Georgia Tech fans to take pride in as we continue to grow this. It's been a ton of fun. But listen, we had TaQuon Marshall on. He was fantastic. If you're watching this and you say, hey, I missed it, go over to YouTube. All of our shows are archived under Swarm Talk. We had an awesome logo made. We're going to work with that as well and kind of get some stuff. And hey, maybe we'll release some merch, Crowded Booth, Swarm Talk merch for you guys. We have to partner up with Section 103. Maybe they can get us in on some stuff. But KJ, we appreciate you. Listen, this is what's awesome. College football is made special by you guys, the fans, especially with the pageantry, the tailgating, all of these different things. I know Bobby Dodd Stadium was rocking the first couple of weeks, and it was fun to do that. It was fun to see that. But it's up to you guys. We're going to keep putting content out here, but it's you guys share this. I mean, I know you got friends. I know you got some alum. If you went to Georgia Tech, Hickman knows everybody in Atlanta and beyond. I mean, let's get this out here. Let's get this rolling. I'm going to get my good bud Rod McKenzie on. We're going to talk maybe some recruiting stuff as well because, listen, while Georgia Tech has obviously have the team they have now, they've got a lot building for the future. And I think it's really exciting to see this program's going. I know it hurts, the losses in Northern Illinois, but listen, there's a lot of positives. This team right now, from week 1 to week 3, guys, you just go look at Twitter and the timeline. It's completely different. So focus on that. Focus on the positives. Obviously, a big game. Even if it doesn't go in Tech's favor this weekend, I think there's still going to be some positives you can take. And listen, they've got a Pitt team coming in. TaQuon said Pitt had been really good. And Ralph, I think they went on the road and lost. Or they went back home and lost to Western Michigan this past week. So listen, it's wide open. This is an opportunity for Tech to be fun, and we want to be there the whole step of the way. So listen, grow this, share this, tell your friends about it, make it fun. It's going to be a ton of fun. And we're just going to continue to grow this. But like I said, it's all down to you, the fans. We appreciate it. So listen, everyone, from KJ, Patience, Ralph, of course, Hickman. We had our guy. Let's go back up here. We had Ken Fowler. He's been all over with us doing this. And Wanye Thomas obviously tuned in for a little bit. And Zach, listen, we appreciate everyone talking. Trent, we'll go Trent. Trent was in there early on. And then obviously our special guest, TaQuon Marshall. We're going to try to bring a special guest on every single week. It's going to be very interesting to say. Last comment right here. Our strength of schedule dropped a little with the way some of the teams play, but still top 5 it is. I think Tech can take some advantage of some of the games they have left. Listen, everyone, we appreciate it. This has been episode 2 of Swarm Talk. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, and give a shout out to Ralph Leary. You can follow him at Ralph Leary on Twitter. Myself at Bryce Kuhn. You follow us at The Crowded Booth, at The Crowded Booth. Sign up at thecrowdedbooth.com for some great content as well. And listen, we got some fun stuff coming. We're going to continue to grow Swarm Talk. But for now, it's been fun. Everyone, see you later.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on.